Paul Reyne, aka Wangas. Welcome, mate. Thanks for your time coming on to First Use today.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, mate.
No, my pleasure. Pleasure. It's great to have you aboard. So, everyone, Paul Reyne. Well, we'll go Wangas. We'll just call him Wangas for this interview. But he started his coaching journey at Yeronga, 2013. Been involved in the coaching for 9 years. But started his journey in 2014 as the head coach. So 2013 was the assistant coach, but took over the reins for Yeronga in 2014. 4 years he spent there at Yeronga, very successful. Then took on the reins as head coach at Springwood in 2001, all the way to last year, getting them to the grand final. In that time, though, 9 years as a head coach, he made the finals on seven occasions and won 2 flags and came close to winning last year. Great grand final that I was there to watch. But great coaching career for you, Wangas, and I really appreciate you coming on today. So we're going to kick it off with a question. How did you get into coaching? What inspired you to be a coach?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it probably goes back to back to my playing days at Narracourt, actually. I sort of was just doing the running for a mate who was coaching the junior Colts back then. And then I actually took over his role in, I think it was 1999. So, I was still probably only 20, I reckon, 1920. So, yeah, I did 2 years of junior Colts there. Then I transitioned into 2 years of senior Colts. So junior Colts under 14s, senior Colts under 17s. And then I sort of I ended up heading over to WA. But that was probably where I first, got a taste for coaching. So at a young age, it's just I'm not sure why I did it, but it's just the love of the game, really. And it was a great way to connect with kids, really, because that's where we all started. So I was able just to give a little bit of knowledge back to them, and it was a great little start. And then obviously just through my playing career and whatnot, and I think as you go through your stages of playing, and then once you may get a captaincy role, and I suppose that just gravitates into coaching. And for me, once your time's up, it's still a great way to stay connected in a football environment. So because I think that's why we always end up here, because we love the game, really. So that's probably where it started.
So was there a moment? Might have been a message you gave to a player that became a positive. Was there a moment where you went, I really love this role?
Yeah, I think any coach would, when it's basically like a business, isn't it? You're starting from the scratch, and you create a game plan. You get buy-in from players, and when you can see it unfold through the through the transition of a season, I think any coach will say you get a lot of great sort of pleasure out of doing that. So I think you can. I think the big one is just you can have impact on a lot of whether it's juniors or men, a lot of impact on their life through those stages of coaching. So I think that's where I probably got the most pleasure out of it. Yeah. And it's just also a way of giving back, isn't it? Like what you've learned through your coaching journey, like as a player, to all the coaches you've had, it's an opportunity to to give some of those learnings back to some of those players. So I think that's what I've enjoyed the most out of it.
Yeah, and you touched on it just briefly there, and it's something that I wanted to raise with you is about a program. So you're assistant coach in 2013 at Yeronga, and then decided to go the head coaching role at 2014 at Yeronga.
Yep.
Did you take did you take some of that game plan from 2013 as an assistant coach, or did you implement your own program, your own game plan? Was it, how was that transition at that time?
Yeah. So for me, I played at Yeronga. I got to Queensland in 2007 in October. So 2008, just on a job site, a couple of guys were already playing there that I'd met through work, and they said to come on down. So I ended up playing there from 2008 through to probably 2016. So for me, it was quite an easy transition into the coaching because a lot of that playing group I'd played with. So to sort of be playing assistant coach, then 2014, I wasn't probably meant to be a playing coach, but it just sort of worked out that way that when you have a few injuries and you still love the game. So no, I did change the game plan. And why I say it probably was an easy transition was because, a lot of the players probably knew my values, like I was a captain for 2 or 3 years there. And so they probably knew how I played, what my values were. And so, yeah, we definitely tinkered different things, zones, etc. Just probably wanted to play a faster brand of footy and those sort of things. So yeah, I definitely had my own ideas.
And with adapting a new game plan or changing things up,
yep.
were you a coach that looked at what the opposition, or you drew a lot of information from the AFL or what the latest trends were? How did you implement? How did Wangas go? I reckon we can implement that. I reckon that could work.
Yeah. It's a good question. I think, I think I've learned a lot from just my past coaches over the journey. So a little bit of them just through your younger years. And then, yeah, you're 100% right. I think the game evolves so quickly year in, year out. So, you do take some snippets of like what the AFL is doing. So little bits of that, just learnings, and also just the way what your team is set up like. So, you've got to be very conscious of what sort of game plan you want to play, regardless, of what sort of playing group you have. So, if you've got a lot of fast kids, that can run all day, well, you suit your game plan to suit that style a little bit. So, yeah, I've never been one just to this is the way it is. I've always been pretty open to adapt as the years go on. So
I think that's a key message, because part of this series is to help community coaches, grab those little nuggets from you and stuff like that. And that's a really interesting point you raised, because the start of the year you could recruit and you could have all these different types of players. This could be a different style. But then you go through the period of the year where some players are injured, some players are not in form. So you have to adapt, don't you? Your game plan has to adapt throughout the year. Yes, you could have something in place, but it needs to adapt.
100%. I think that's exactly right. We, you can start the preseason with a game plan that you want, but as soon as you lose a few players or things aren't quite working, I think you've just got to be adaptable to adapt to the situation. And if that means tinkering slightly in a different direction of how you want to play, I think that's the smart way of going through it. So you're forever learning, Jeff. Like, we have to admit we don't know everything, and that's why I think you just got to be surrounded by good people and be open to other suggestions if you need to change something. So
yeah, so there's two elements there. There's the game plan, which is everyone has their own game plan. Every coach has their different ideas and they've got on their own journey. But then you have a program. So when you leave a club, do you think from a local perspective, should the program, you've got the players, in a sense, the only thing that's changing is possibly you. There might be a few players that change.
Yeah.
But should the club always continue that program? You hear it in the AFL. We build this culture. We build this culture. Personnel might change, the coach and stuff, but we build this culture. Do you think it's really important that local communities should continue that, even though, say, you as a coach has left?
Oh, yes and no. I think if you have a new coach come in, he's been through a different journey to what, say, I had been. So I think you've got to, when he's going for the interview process, if he's got his own ideas and his own direction, I think he should be able to have that opportunity to do it his way. Regardless of whether we've been successful over that period of time, he's got to have his way that he wants to do it. Like, because really, why should he be dictated to how I did it when he's got different ideas? So I really think, if I was a coach again, to come back into the system, even though a club had done really well, I still think there's a certain amount that I'd want to do it my way, and that's how I probably see it as well.
Great. You're basically owning the program, right? You're owning that sort of part, and you're creating the habits that you want, and you're creating the program and the game style that you want. Correct. So let's have a look. So you've got the Yeronga Wangers.
Yeah.
Compare that to the Springwood Wangers, because there was a period of time there. What's that? 5 or 6 years where you weren't the head coach. What made you decide to go back into coaching in 2021 for Springwood?
Yeah, good question. I probably originally left, finished up at Yeronga in 2017, and we'd just had 2 little girls, so they were 2 and 4, I think. So it was just getting really busy. So 4 years of commitment at Yeronga, plus all the playing years. I have a very supporting wife, but, I could see it was probably taking a little toll on her as well. So that was an opportunity just to step away. I think it was 3 years that I had off. 2017, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so 3 years. I actually wasn't looking to get back into it. I actually just got a phone call from Springwood just to ask if I might be interested. So, I just sort of was thinking about it, and probably did a little bit of due diligence on them about. They've always been a good side around the mark in those last few years, and the divs had slightly changed a bit. So Noosa and Maroochydore were up in Quaffle, so they were in our comp, and then they went up. So that interested me a little bit, because Springwood were always probably 3rd or 4th on the ladder. And then when you went through their list, they never lost players. They always had the same sort of players, So to me, that meant they probably had a pretty good culture. I went for the interview, and I was lucky enough to be accepted. My coaching did change from Yeronga to Springwood. I think at Yeronga I was probably really, what would you say? If we made mistakes, it would be like push-ups, 400s, I wouldn't give them an opportunity to fix it, where, I was pretty hard on them, but also fair. But, that was probably when the Dimmer Hardwick was coming through his journey in 2017 to 20, where he had that success, a bit more of a, his style was pretty unique in a way that, you're allowed to make mistakes and those sort of things. And, regardless on the score, like on the result, as long as you were happy and stuff. So I was probably changed my mindset in that sense. So I'd sort of, when I did get the opportunity at Springwood, I probably took a lot of that out. We still did reasonably hard pre-seasons, but if we mucked up, I'd just bring them in and give them an opportunity to fix it, and generally they did. So I was a bit more open to and trying to probably really base myself on trying to really get deep in relationships and that communication level, and we had some success, so it was good.
Well, 2 flags in the space of 5 years and a grand final appearance last year, just narrowly losing, shows that you. But did you find that you said about the communication piece, which is really important, but did you find that you relaxed a little? Well, not, you wouldn't say relaxed, but the tempo of Wangas as a coach sort of pulled back a little bit compared to Yeronga. Did you find that the messages got through to the players a lot easier? Did you find that they were more responsive because you weren't so tense?
Yeah, I think so. It was different because, at Yeronga, I knew everyone. I'd played there. Going to a new club, I knew of a few players only because we played a little bit against them, but personally didn't really know anyone on a deeper level. So that was a really big challenge to walk into a club and go, how will they accept me? Obviously I got chosen through the committee to lead this team. So it was really, it was exciting, but it was very nerve-wracking to go in and go, all right, how can I make this team believe my game plan, me as the leader of them? And I just, for the first couple of weeks, I just really just got around to every player and just tried to get to know them as best as possible, and and sort of build those relationships. So it was a great journey because it probably made me work really hard to be better. Once you gain the trust from players and they know who you are and how to where you want to get to, I think it's really empowering. But as much as I'm proud of my journey, it's great to have great players too. So they got to take a lot of the credit as well for our success, because they're the ones that show up week in, week out, and they put their bodies on the line, and they go through some big highs and lows through seasons, don't they? With injuries and work-life balance and etc. So as much as we do a lot of work, I still massive gratitude for the players, because they're the ones that are playing the game these days. So, yeah.
But they have to rock up to training, Wangers. You have time constraints. You only have limited time with them during the week, so you've got to create a happy environment. How did you create that environment? How did you give them the opportunity? Yes, they've got to go hard at the ball. They've got to be able to, adapt. But you only do that coming from a player's perspective when you feel comfortable in your environment.
Yeah. I think it's just about being yourself. So, I was probably just an everyday guy. I like to have a beer, and I made myself go out and have nights out with the guys early. Sort of let that guard side of yourself down. And then once you get that trust, I think, they just embrace it. And then the footy side of things flow. And it is about, having them, wanting them to get to training. It's, and I think you've just got to make it fun, don't you? You want to challenge them in any way you can, like if that's through pre-season of, hitting KPIs, etc. But also, having fun along the way. So, I think everything's different, whether it's AFL, community level, juniors, seniors. You've got to have that balance where, you've got to give them something they probably want as well. They've all got a drill they love, whether it's goal kicking or a pressure drill or something. You sort of just got to have that balance of, okay, you're sacrificing an hour and a half at training. We're going to work you as hard as you can, but also have that fun element as well. And results are good if you are winning. I think that keeps teams, keeps players interacted and wanting to come back because, spots is getting harder to get once you get back in, once you're getting closer to finals, etc. But yeah, it's just that, everyone talks about culture, but having that good culture, I think, is so important as well. So, that's got to transition from seniors to reserves as well. You want both those teams to be enjoying it, and that's probably one thing we've tried to at Springwood especially is train as much as we can together, just to keep that no divide. So, and I think that's worked pretty well in the past.
It just builds that camaraderie, but also, looking at the results from last year, that Springwood seniors have always been up there. You've won 2 flags, but the reserves haven't been to win the grand final last year.
Yeah,
shows that there was that level of enjoyment playing for each other, but that team spirit. So, how did you create that? Because there'd be a lot of coaches looking at this going, yes, I'm a head coach, but how do I also inspire the reserves or the up and coming players as well?
Yeah, I think also you've just got to basically start with your coaching group, your assistant coaches, your reserves coach, the buy-in from us firstly, and then that transitions to the playing group. And, I think by, the training together is a big one. Like if we train Tuesday night purely together, and then Thursday we might break off for the last drill, basically. So I think that really inspires the reserves. I try and call it, we try to promote one club, but when you're sort of talking reserve seniors, they have that opportunity to train against the best players, in the senior side. So that makes them that's challenging them to be better. So I think that really, really helped the program just to, them training with us. Plus, we just had some really good players, and they just worked really well for each other. And that was our reserves coach first year in sort of senior coaching, done a lot of junior coaching before that. And, he just really brought the team together, I thought. His game day stuff was very, very on point. And just probably a little bit more professionalism of what the reserves had. I think they just took their game to another level just by, being there on time, going through your warm-ups, and just, yeah, so it was a great season, for them. I was very, very proud of them.
Yeah, it is, and you touch on, we touch on a program, but it's also the buy-in, isn't it? But how do you get that? I mean, you're the coach, you've got the assistant coaches.
Yep.
So is the buy-in from the leaders, or is it a collective thing? How does that get to the group? How does the message get to the group, the playing group?
Yeah, I think just through myself, the leaders, everyone, like a captain will have a couple of 2 or 3 meetings throughout the year just of talking, might have one at the start of the year, middle of the year, towards the end as we're embarking into finals. Just says the same principal messages of what we're good at, what we can do better. I think don't like to overcomplicate things really in community footy. It's keeping it pretty basic. So, challenges come throughout the whole year, and that's through every season. But I think you've just got to have that direction, and don't try and veer off from it too much. So it's pretty basic sometimes. So yeah.
So Wangas as the coach, his philosophy is: are you a tactical coach? Are you an instinctive coach? There's coaches that go to game day. They've got their game style, but they change, adapt to the opposition. What do you think Wangas is? What's your philosophy?
Yeah, I'm not probably the biggest tactical coach in a sense. Like I've always been probably, never been data driven until probably this last year, which I sort of got exposed to, which was a whole different world to me, really. But loved it. But yeah, I've been very good at like matchups. I think over the journey, like if I was to play a team once, well then I know if they've got a great midfielder, great forward. I feel like I'm tactically well in how to stop them. So if I can give a defensive midfielder that role, we've got a backman there. We might have another one that might slide across to intercept, and then we try and minimise their impact in the game. I think that's where I've probably been best at, and just with especially Div 1, quite a small sort of a small division of teams. Like last year was 7. You get to play these teams 3 times. Some of them, and you know them really, you know them really well. And so that's what I've probably been best at. And just really, I think I've had a knack of just getting the best out of a lot of my players. It's easy to say that, but I feel once you create that environment and the trust of being able to maximise everything out of them, and that's probably been my strengths.
It's a really interesting point you raised, because it's, you hear about it in the AFL, and players say it, but also coaches say about play your role. So at one point you build the trust, but then that trust, that you're coming up against the opposition. So run us through, there'll be coaches here watching this going, okay, yes, we've got an opposition this week. I've got a player in mind, got a good relationship. How do you actually give the message of your role this week is not getting 30 possessions? Your role is to stop that player, because that's the team role.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I think things, as you go through your season, you see different things, how players move, work, etc. And I'll pretty much, by Tuesday, I'll be sort of, having those conversations to, hey, this is possibly what I want to do. Let them think about it. And then, if that's a defensive midfielder role, we'll let them work there. But, we just definitely had like different roles. We had some players that were, a couple of players just as a forward pressure purely. And, they might only get 5 or 6 possessions in a game, but they're averaging like 12 tackles, and that to us, that's just, we'd try and we'd promote that like on a Tuesday. We'd do a review of the game and stuff, and just try and highlight those particular moments. Like, whether it might just show 2 or 3 clips, but we want them to feel just as important as the guy getting 35, 40 possessions, which we all love too. But it's those guys that play those defensive, roles for the team. And, we had some really good players that did that over the journey, and loved it as well, because it's a sacrificial role in a sense, but if you can do it, it makes your team so much better, because, we're probably not at that stage where we take stats and all that of each individual players, how many disposals they get, but, if a player, who's done that defensive 10, 12 tackles, like it just, I rate that nearly higher than a 35 possession game sometimes. So I love it. So
it is important to reinforce that positive behaviour, isn't it? Especially to the playing group, because those players then feel they feel a part of their role is to the benefit of the team, even though they're not getting the high stats.
Yeah, I think, you watch AFL, don't you? It's so out there. This guy got 35, this guy got that. So as a kid, you probably want to do the same. You just want to touch the footy. But, as you get into senior football, there is there's definitely there's a spot for guys that if they just, mightn't be able to kick very well or what, but if they can apply just pressure, there's a spot there for you in our side. So, I love that's the beauty of football, isn't it? There is a spot for every individual. You don't have to be the best, but if you're the best team player, I think there's a role for you. So, everyone needs them. You want your superstars, but you also need some really good team players around you as well.
Team players. I know I helped out, was fortunate enough to be involved last year, but I know that you faced some challenges during the year last year. A few big defeats. How did you go about motivating the players after those big defeats? I know it was early in the year. I think you were sort of struggling a little bit. You knew you had the fitness. You knew that your strength and conditioning stuff was really, really in good nick, but you just weren't getting the results. How did you turn it around?
Yeah, it was actually it turned out like it was probably one of my, we won 2 flags, 21, 23, but 25 was still probably up there with, equal to those premierships in a way, because it was a really challenging year, and to sort of come out the way we did was just an example of how you can change things around. Because I guess when you go right back, we probably from the playing group's perspective, that was not the hardest preseason, but one of the most challenging. We really probably focused on maxing VO2 levels and stuff like that, which was probably something we hadn't done a lot of. And yeah, we were fit, and it was the guys were challenged a lot, and we had a good preseason. We played our first game, I think, against Moreton Bay in the wet, and we blitzed them. And I think everyone thought we were pretty good. We're going all right here, and then come up against UQ, who we ended up playing in the preliminary final. Good side. They it was pretty even the whole way through, and then just something went amiss, and we got blitzed in the last quarter by about, ended up losing by 50 odd, I think. And then okay, things aren't right. Then we played Maine the following game, and yeah, they just come out and trounced us by 100 plus. And then everyone starts asking questions. What's going on? So that was tough. Because I guess I'd had so much probably, probably from the higher part of the club, they put a lot of trust in me, and, so questions were starting to be asked. We sort of had to go through a process. But probably one thing I probably thank my wife. She was very, she was very good, because I was probably a little bit down in, how it was all unfolding. I'm like, is this how it's meant to be? And, but how do I get out of that? Just tried to, let the dust settle in a sense, just backed off the program a little bit, and, probably give the playing group a little bit what they wanted. It's funny, if you go back to pre-season, we sent out a survey to, asked a lot of questions, and it was probably, for me, it was pretty confronting, because a lot of the feedback come back that we weren't fit enough the year before. My drills were repetitive, etc. So for me, for going into 25, I wanted to change that. So everything that I was probably criticised of, I wanted to, change. But then when it all unfolded, the playing group sort of probably wanted to go back to how it was. So I just had to find that balance, which we did. We found that balance, and we went on to nearly snatch another unthinkable victory, really, because no one gave us an opportunity. Probably thought we were going to get trounced to get in the grand final, and we had a really good year in the end. I think if you ask a lot of the playing group, there was quite a lot that still enjoyed the season. So regardless of the result, so I think big challenges, but I think you just got to trust yourself, trust your assistants. Hey, are we doing it right? And try and not get everyone too caught up in it, because at the end of the day, footy's footy, isn't it? Footy's fun. And maybe I did lose the focus of footy being fun. Maybe I went slightly the other way, that was, too professional maybe. So it's that balancing act. I'm first to admit I'm not perfect, and I've had many times I've got things wrong. So, I'm happy to take a little bit of that responsibility. But we got out of that, and we come home pretty strong. So.
Yeah, you did. You certainly did, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I think the important part of that goes back to what we spoke about earlier about adapting, about having the trust in the players, but also adapting to the environment, understanding, having an awareness of how your players are feeling and so on and so forth. So creating that fun environment, that must have, like, you come to the club at 100-point loss on the weekend. What's the mindset of the players? How do you reinvigorate the whole playing group?
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, I sort of, I'm pretty sure I went back to a few of those old drills. I've just,
right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, and I think, I can't remember if it was, might have been Indigenous round the following week, and which is a big stage for the club. Like they do it really well, and I never forget when I first got to the club. We don't lose these games, and I was like, I can't lose this, and so I probably backed off the fitness program, went back to the couple of funner drills, and I had a couple of guys, senior footballers, had a pretty slow start to the pre-season. They were in the twos, and I stacked my team that day on talent, not ability, like just not on fitness, etc. I just went purely talent, and putting the trust in some of my older stars that hadn't quite gotten into the team, and we got back on board and got a win. So it was. That was how I did it. So,
that's all.
Yeah.
So, Wangas, you talk about those challenges that you had, but is there any other challenges you faced during your coaching career that you felt that it was just you just needed? It was hard to comprehend because it was sort of out of your control.
I had another one in 2021 actually. My first year at Springwood. We obviously, the COVID sort of hit. So we started a little bit slower in that season, and then by mid-year we were humming. I think we won 6 in a row, and then COVID hit, so we had to stop all footy for 4 weeks, which was tough. So we had to had to set up some individual plans for the players to try and do on their own, which was, really that was pretty tough. And anyway, when they finally let us to play again, we went straight into finals. So every club was probably a little bit underdone, but we won the first final, went straight into the grand final. So that was all great. But coming, I think it was the Sunday or Monday before the grand final, I'd got a young ruckman across from Yeronga back in the day, Don Willie, and he great young player, great tap ruckman, and he's a Sudanese boy, and he rang me to tell me that he had to fly to Melbourne, which was once you flew to Melbourne, you couldn't get back out. And he was flying there to be with his auntie who was about to give birth. And her husband was stuck over in WA working in the mines. So it was sort of I think through the family, it was it was his role to go down and be with her. Which at that moment, I was probably thinking about myself and and the team, but like, how could this happen? But once you sat back and thought about it, I probably couldn't have been more prouder of him. That's a massive decision for a 21-year-old to have. So it was that was a stressful time, but in the end, it didn't make a difference. We had a young fella, probably always played a high half forward. He stepped up to be the second in charge, and our second ruckman, Brighton, he played number one, and he dominated that day. So
so you end up getting the result. 21 was the result you got.
Yeah, we won well. So we had a pretty flawless day, to be honest. 40, 50.
Well, that shows a lot of resilience in the group, knowing that their number one ruck, or even if it's a number one player, is unavailable for the biggest game of the year, and to have that mental resilience to focus on their roles for game day.
Yeah, and I think just when you talk about challenges and that, I think probably the biggest one is probably getting to grand final day and then having to probably tell a player that he's not in the side. Yeah. Like that really, I find that probably the hardest out of everything. Because you build such good, I don't class them as your players. I class them as mates, really. And when you have that relationship and you've got to look him in the eye and tell him, I'm picking someone else over you. That's one of the hardest challenges for me. I've found that really, really hard. So, and because you want them all to play, don't you?
Yeah. It's great that you raised that point, because it must be. It's like you're not sacking someone, but someone's not available for you to be your employee for that day. In a sense, if you look at it from that perspective. So how is your message? So you're not playing this weekend, but this is what you need to work on. So is there element of the solution? There's a task in front of them to get back in the side. Is that the type of coach you found that you were?
Oh, through the season, definitely. I'd always I'd tell them on a Thursday night, and I would give them objectives to improve on. Tell them why. It could be purely matchup wise, or if they've been down on form over probably 2 or 3 week period, and someone's playing well in the reserves, I would give them an opportunity. So that during the seasons, didn't find that too bad. I think that was just part of the process, but it was just purely the last game of the year. And if if your reserves haven't made it, obviously last year was okay because we had the reserves for the first time in the grand final, so it was, at least they still got to play if you didn't make the side. But the previous 21 and 23, had one guy played all year, and we went with a different matchup in the 23 grand final. So that's pretty heartbreaking. And someone who I'm pretty close to. So I think challenges like that, they're ones that I'll remember.
So as a collective, so you have the challenge during the year. We're talking about 2025. You come up against Maine. They're undefeated all year. You play them in the first final. I went to the game. You got beaten by 80, 90, something like that.
Yeah, 90.
Then you come up against UQ, who've beaten you during the year, but you'd also beaten them, and then you get into the grand final. What's the message grand final week? Because you've nearly won that game, with fifth, and we don't want to harp on it. I know that. But what do you think turned the playing group around from 2 weeks prior to on game day, how they played? Because they played outstanding. It was a great grand final.
It was a good grand final. I think it, especially probably for a spectator's view, it had everything. just the trust in knowing what we're good at. And, we had all year we probably had a lot of injuries throughout, and we were probably nearly getting our best side in for that last game of the year. So, Greg Frizz up forward, and who else did we get back? I can't remember, but we probably had our best side, and I think just making sure you give the players that biggest belief. Like, at the end of the day, when I say I'm pretty basic, they've got 22 players, so have we. They've got 2 arms, 2 legs, so have we. So if we can embrace and make sure we know that we've talent-wise, we're very good. If we can go back to that side of things where I talk about getting our matchups right, an ability to look at, we had a fair bit of data on them on which side they actually liked playing on, etc., where they turned the footy over. If we had ways of where we wanted to to move the footy and how we wanted to get it into the forward line, we really, inside our 4 walls, we were pretty confident we could beat them. Like, I don't think there was too much doubt in the team. I thought we were pretty confident. So, yeah. And I think that transitioned into the day. And, I got a few things wrong throughout that day, but we also did a lot right too. And, that the playing group left nothing out there. We lost a young fella really early in the first quarter. Couple of sore boys throughout the game. But yeah, I couldn't have asked much more of them. We just got a little bit rattled in the last that last quarter. We had our players out of position, give away a couple of frees. The 6-6-6 rule. They didn't score goals out of it, but we lost that opportunity to get a centre clearance. Those little things, they stack up over that time. And, maybe just those fresh legs they had in that last little bit was probably enough. But, it was a emotional game. So,
emotional, wasn't it?
It had it all.
So you go. So just on that, would you implement more tactical sort of stuff? Because you said that you weren't really that type of coach, but then last year a few tactics came in. You were able to read the opposition a bit better. Did you find that helped you as a coach? Yeah,
definitely. Yep. I think it's like, it's, you're sort of, what's the word? Especially, over my journey at Springwood, you don't have a lot of, the hardest thing is a lot of assistant coaches probably want to be coaches, don't they? And it's probably the hardest thing to get, assistant coaches. That's what I've found. So I've generally done it over that 5-year period with just one assistant coach, and then you've got the reserve coach. So you're limited on resources a little bit. So I've probably never delved into that full data that we did last year. And, we were able to have a little bit more help on the side and just taking notes down of where the footies was turned over, etc. And definitely, opened my eyes. And, I think as you go into probably that quaffle level and higher, etc., you probably get that exposure to that sort of data-driven side of things. So, I'm never saying no, I'd never use it. If I was ever to step back into the seat in the future, I'd be open to it if it was available. Definitely. Yeah.
So so as we're trying to inspire, local coaches and, really give them the tools to be able to, at the end of the day, they're coaches, they're passionate, they're volunteers, but they're trying to make the players better. What's a message that you have for local coaches?
Probably just, trust yourself, trust your instincts. Try and, whether it's whether it's junior footy, senior footy, try and give as much attention and love and dedication to the 22nd or 45th. You know, if you've got two teams, the 45th player in your side is what you do to your captain. I think it's hard, but I think it's so important. You know, you're lying if you don't say you've got some favourites throughout your teams over the journey, but you've got to give that guy that's down in the list as much respect, as much love as you do to the leader. You know, your captain of the side. So because you want to make everyone equal, and I think that's something I've tried to do over the journey. Is to make everyone as one. So I'd be really working on that. And yeah, just make it as fun as possible. Yeah, I think, you know, you got to go back to when you're a junior. What did you love about footy? You know, we just loved it, didn't we? Why? Because we were kicking footies, we were with our mates, and I don't think you ever want to lose that. I think, you know, like you said, how do you get players to training? Well, you've got to make them want to love it. You've got to create that environment that they make it fun. And when you do that, you actually make it great for yourself as well, because I've had many moments where you've had the worst day at work and probably didn't want to go to training myself, but you get there and then they make it fun for you because, you know, all of a sudden they're talking about their weekend and having a laugh, and I've forgotten what a average day I probably had. So, you know, you drive home, you're like, wow. Like, so sometimes you need them as much as they need you, if that makes sense.
And you're right about the 45th or the 40th player, because it's really so. From a local coach perspective, I want you to just really tell me how do you send them a text, a call? Do you watch their reserves game? Do you watch them at training? What's the key little things that you provide that 40th player? How do they feel that, oh, Wangas is watching me, or the coach is watching me?
Yeah, I'll probably message a lot through the weeks and stuff, like to, you know, just talk to players, etc. But obviously you get there early on a Tuesday, Thursday night. Every player rolls through at different times just due to work. You know, I might get there at 5:15, start at 6, but, you know, you'll get there, some guys there at 5, some guys will roll in a minute to 6, some after 6. But that's my opportunity to try and talk to each different player that comes through. So, you know, if that's the 45th player, you know, how do you think you went on the weekend, you know? And because the thing is, Jeff, like, some players are really like straight to you, hey, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Where can I improve? Some players are too scared to talk to you as well, you know. So if you can strike that conversation up, open it up for them to actually then start asking questions, because some are just go along, they're just happy just to do their own thing and don't really want to, you know, oh, you're too busy you're too busy for me. But if you can strike that conversation, then you actually can open up. And, you know, we don't know what goes on in half these boys' lives, you know, outside of footy. So it's an opportunity to, you know, how's everything at home? How's your partner? How's work going? You know, and sometimes you can actually find out a lot more about each individual as you open these conversations up. So that's what I think is very important.
Sometimes there's more to life than footy, isn't there, Wang? Isn't it?
There is.
I've said it before, but I remember someone saying to me, "If you're happy off the field, you're happy on the field." Yeah,
absolutely. I think I think footy's a great avenue for outlets outside of our normal day-to-day stuff, and, you know, we that's why I love the game, and that's why, you know, you want to continue the game to grow, and that's probably our responsibility as coaches, you know, to make them want to keep playing, because you know, there's so many other things to do in life outside of footy, but you know, as long as we can keep these guys playing, you know, it's great for the communities, and, you know, keeps footy running for longer, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to touch on just one training drill. Apparently, the Shark Tank. Was it called the Shark Tank? Was it something you ran during the year that was? I saw it firsthand. I was very impressed with how the drill run. It was on the wing, set up like a handball game. But is that the one we're talking about? I want you to
handball
just
game.
give the viewers a bit of an insight into this drill, because from my perspective, being involved in the AFL for a long time, I think it really gave the boys an opportunity to increase their instinctive behaviour in tight, in close.
Yeah, I couldn't say I made that drill up. I think that was back in, we went to,
you're all a team, aren't you? You're all coming up with different ideas.
Yeah, we what happened? Yeah, 2021 actually. My assistant coach had an affiliation with Redlands, and with the coach there, and I think who was the coach then? Carsey, Phil. So he invited us to go. He invited us to go to one of their trainings, and I seen that drill there. So
we've had Phil on this show, so it's a bit of a loop here. But how's the drill run, and what did you see in that drill? Because a lot of coaches that watch this are always looking for new drills. They're looking for ways to inspire their groups, but they're also looking for new drills. How does the drill run?
Yeah, so I don't know what they named it, but the boys, once we started doing it, they're like, this is the Shark Tank. So that's how the name come. But just a pressure handball drill, probably set up, say 12 to 15 meters long by 10 to 12. You can shorten it, lengthen it, depending on how much pressure you want. But basically on the first line, you've got 4 attackers. Then the second line is your 3 defenders and another 3 attackers, and then you've got the attackers, 2 or 3 attackers and defenders on the next line. But basically, it's teaching you to come forward to the player. So I'll kick the footy into the first line, and basically it's just you're teaching your defenders to roll up to the source. So you want to try and shut that footy down as quick as possible. And for an attacking side, you're trying to, by quick handballs and blocks, trying to get through to the other end to a goal, basically. So with the defensive side, and generally I do it with one less defender to make it even harder, but you're trying to shut that footy down as quick as possible in that first square, basically. So, boys really liked it. I think it worked for us throughout pretty much, our 5 years. We used it every year. So it was, it's sometimes I get a bit nervous because it gets pretty heated. It's pretty physical sort of drill, but it's one you try not to do for too long. It's a bit of
they talk about finals footy. It's a bit of a chaos drill, isn't it?
It is chaos.
It is chaos. And that's what I really loved about the drill, because you're creating that environment where it's game related. And I think that's a really important message for local coaches, is the drills that you come up with have to be really game simulated, don't they? In some aspects, you've got to be mindful of, the tackling perspective, but you've got to put your athletes in that mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of drills these days, you've got to do it as close to your game plan as possible. So, it's trying to execute from D50 through transitioning through mids to forwards. How you link up, how we set up after we've kicked a point. Whether that's a zone or man on. So you train for all of that, and it's hard because like you said earlier, it's minimal time. You're 3 hours during the week, and then you get it right on game day. So that is challenging. So why I probably don't want to overcomplicate things in some sense. I think let the boys play, be instinctive, give them some lenience to how here's your quickest way to goals, but, have a game plan, how we set up through your forwards, how the defenders set up, your mids, they've got their calls, and the rest is just on instinct, isn't it? So
yeah. Well, when you look at it, you talk about you building a team with the roles. You know where to put them. It's almost like a chess, isn't it? It's like that he's good off the halfback, uses the ball well.
Yeah,
but we want to move the ball quick. So it's understanding the players, isn't it?
100%.
And that's how you can fast track your game plan.
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty going back to the 21 when I went through the interview process. They said, "Do you have a game plan?" And I actually said no, and which at the time I'm like, "Oh, I've stuffed up here." But I said, "Look, I do have game plans, but I'd need to see the players first, over a 2 to 3 week period, and see how they move the footy through training drills, and then I could extract the game plan to how we play." And I sort of walked out of that because the eyes sort of looked up. I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't the right thing to say," but it turned out to be the right thing. So
yeah, and it goes back to every coach is different. You might have seen that team in 2020 before you became a coach, but it needs to fit in with what your game style is.
Yeah. So every team's different, and as you got to see the boys evolve, like probably the biggest thing I wish I probably did differently is, now you reflect back on it, is what worked in 21 probably didn't work in 22. Then we win the flag in 23 with another game plan that my assistant coach brought over from where he come from, and that probably didn't work in 24. And then we had a new game plan in 25. I think, if I ever had my time again, probably need to just because it worked in 21 doesn't mean it's going to work in 22. I think you've got to keep tinkering. You've got to keep tinkering. So
you got to adapt.
Got to adapt. That's right. So that's one for future references. So
yeah. And so the last one, Wangas, and I had a bit of dialogue with you on this last year, but I want to ask you for local footy: zone or one-on-one?
Ooh.
I know we had some talks about this last year, but what do you think? Because you're right with the time constraints, but what do you think? Behind the ball, zone, or one-on-one? Because it's ever evolving in the AFL.
There's a place for both, isn't there? Really, like we've done both over the 5 years. We went man on man in 21. Well, we started as a zone, but I think it was like round 6. We were playing main, and they always switched the ball really well, very good by foot, and we had a lot of injuries that day. So I said, let's go man on man, and we only lost by 6 points. I'm like, I've seen something here. So we transitioned into man on, and but we still had 2 really good running halfbacks where if they got the opportunity, they'd go. And we played fast footy that year, and we won the grand final pretty easily in that one, and went to do the same thing in 22. Didn't really work. New assistant coach in 23. He brought over the zone, full press, and it took quite a while for us. A lot of training to do it, but we won a premiership in 23 with that, and did it in 24 as well. And then 25, we went man on man again in the back 6. Yep. So, I'm 50-50, Jeff, but I'm pretty. You speak to a lot of my old school coaches that I've had. They still like the one-on-one. Beat your man. How it probably was in the old days that when we played, but. As you know, it's ever evolving, isn't it? So it'll continue to have different elements of both, I think, throughout the journey of football.
And there's a balance there because you want to, if you want to implement a game style, you don't want to spend too much time because they don't kick the ball. There might be a training. They want to kick the footy. They want to have, be able to improve their skills.
Yeah.
They might be standing around in the zone and not even pick up the ball or even kick it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, going back to that, probably just the zone, etc. Probably got a good little story for you. In 2023, the grand final. I don't know if you ever seen the results of that, but we were 8 goals. I think we were 8 goals to 3 in the first quarter. We were 31 points down at quarter time. So we sort of come in and, you sort of like didn't really prepare for that. But anyway, I remember walking out and I'm thinking, all right, do I go? Well, we knew basically the midfield, we were getting slaughtered there. So we kicked 3 goals, won that quarter. We actually only had 5 forward entries. So we got 3 goals, 1 for 5 forward entries. So we were doing well in that department. And when I went to the back line at the break, in the huddle, so we were always big on trying to not give up, say, 10 to 12 goals max in a game, And I heard the leaders talking in that group, like, all right, we've given up 8 goals. We can only give up 2 more for the rest of the game. So I'm like, all right, they're on. So I spoke to the midfield group and we were talking about, Bigger stepping into the contest. And I thought they might have tagged our captain, Pagey, but they went to another good midfielder, which Pagey's very, he'll sort of play the sweeping role. And anyway, I'm like, you've got to take control, Now you've got to be an attacking midfielder. But fast forward that, they kicked to the next 1-goal-1, so we'd become 38 points down. And I remember grabbing calling the assistant coach down. I'm like, I think we've got to go man on man. And he's like, we haven't done it all year. He goes, just hold the zone for a bit longer. We'll just see. And then things started to change, and we got our zone work, and we got on top in the midfield, and we got within 15 points at half time. I think we were a goal in front at 3/4 time and won. So probably a pivotal moment that that initial mindset. Do I change? Do I not? Listening to the assistant coach, I'll hold for that. 5, 10, 15 more minutes, and so that's why I can't say zone or defense, because it's that one won us the game. So epic grand final.
Yeah, that's a great story. It's one where you count on your assistant coaches, don't you? You have trust in them, but they have trust in you.
Yeah, definitely. I think you don't know everything, and good assistant coaches see things differently to you as well. You could be, I'm a midfielder. I get engrossed watching the midfield group, but if they're watching everything, they can pick up different things. Hey, what about this? I think they're important, very important. So, you're always trying to promote. It's not just me. I feel sometimes when you're standing up there accepting, the cup and stuff, it's a bit selfish in a way, because it's such a it's not just me. It's a team effort. That's right. The assistant coaches do just as much work as what you do. So,
and even the volunteers.
Volunteers are massive.
Man,
they're like, in every club you go to, have got them. They're just so important. It's a thankless job, whether they're doing the Guernseys every week. We had a great one, Graham, at Springwood. He did all my stats, like just quarter time, half-time stats, just of inside 50s. They just love the game, and any bit of knowledge you can get from them as well is so, I was always so grateful for. I'd really listen to some of their, his little pointers that he'd give me throughout the game. Without them, clubs don't exist, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, very thankful.
Well, that's the role of being a coach, isn't it? You're open to anything and all the messages that come through. It doesn't matter whether it's a little kid playing under nines or it's the 40th player on the list. Your role is to be open to all those messages that come to you. You just don't know when they come.
No, that's right. So, no, it's good. It's good.
No. Awesome, Wangas. It was I really appreciate it. Great chat. Thank you so much for your time for coming on today. Well done in your coaching career, and really, tip my hat to you, mate. You've gone through the challenges, but this is what it's all about. It's about helping. We're coaching coaches. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give them a sense of understanding. And mate, thanks for your time, and I really appreciate you offering all your insights and your reflections of your time as a coach.
No, thanks for having me, Jeff. Like I say, you're doing great things, and if we can, anyone can take anything out of it. Someone takes something, another coach, etc. These are how we learn through these channels. So, I've definitely got some tips across my journey just through podcasts, etc. So, it's been good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wangas. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
See ya.